This is a music review of Boys and Girls, released in 2012 by a band called the Alabama Shakes. But before I get on to that review and that band, I'm going to refer to the early years and consider the influence and importance of the singer, writer and guitar player in the band, Brittany Howard. Now, Brittany is a vital member of this band, and in fact it could well be described as the leader of this band, so her history is certainly valuable. She grew up interested in music from an early age, writing lyrics, and taught herself to play drums, bass and guitar. She was from East Limestone High School and played in multiple bands, which helped formulate her taste in music. The most serious band of these was a rock band called the Kerosene Swim Team that it consisted of Owen Whitehurst and Jonathan Passero. The three of them released a single and spent a lot of time practicing after school in the two males' garages and Howard's house, and they played sort of house parties and did covers and a few original songs written by Brittany, and they went on to play backup for Howard, with Whitehouse playing with Howard, and the Shakes bassist Zach Cockrell got in on the act, and they became what we called the Shakes. Whitehouse would play drums and piano, with Howard and Cockrell playing their guitars. So let's move on a little bit now to 2009, and that's when Howard met upperclassman Heath Fogg in junior high, and he played guitar, and she also met Cockrell in the psychology class, and soon they began to spend time listening to their music together. And then after graduation they started to jam together, and drummer Johnson arrived on the scene, who Howard had heard singing at a party before, and so he joined the group, and they began making music together. And it was at that time, May 29, that they made their live debut under the name The Shakes. And so that's how the band sort of came about. The music contributions was a real hodgepodge of type of music. Anything from heavy rock, from Zeppelin, AC/DC, to the soul greats like James Brown and Otis Redding, and so they were a real eclectic mix of sounds, and it wasn't long before they started to get heard, and this then obviously became the link towards their finally established themselves as the Alabama Shakes, and resulted in a recording contract with ATO Records, and they then got the contract and started to produce their first album, Boys and Girls, which appeared in 2012. So anyway, they started to record this debut album in Nashville. It was very much self-funded at that stage, until they got the recording contract with ATO Records, and then things started to take off. And so let's start to go through this album then, and track 1, Hold On. Well, it slides into your ears like a sleazy blues with attitude, and of course Brittany rolls the words alongside that rhythm slightly off key. It's got sort of like a bit like Rolling Stones gather their heads as they start nodding along to the foot tapping. The song builds and the eyes close, and you have this imagery of a fat African American mama singing her heart out. No disrespect to Brittany, but she does carry a few extra pounds, and of course she has certainly got family links to the African American community. And Welcome to Alabama Shakes, their debut album, and the Sly Dirge-like feel is wonderful, wonderful stuff. You can hear the 60s stack soul there, Steve Cropper lurking in the rhythms, but the sound is really fresh, albeit it's still 60s influenced blues and soul. Lyrically, this track reflects, I think, on Brittany's tough life throughout her childhood and needing to hold on to crumbs to breed pleasures, and hoping that your time will come in the future, and that it's necessary to be patient. Maybe it's also a bit of a nod to her religious faith as well. Track 2, I Found You, sounds like a touch of Amy Winehouse added to early 60s soul divas, Aretha maybe, and Brittany bellows with heart and passion as the slick guitar chords stink of 50s stack, but once again very modern. It's stripped back for a few seconds, and then the harmonies bear down on the wall of sound. Wow, this is risky taking soul music. And then a bit of horns comes in, and 2 minutes 43 and it's all over. It's a simple love song, this one though, about waiting patiently for your love to arrive in your life. Track 3 is Hang Loose, heavily influenced by the Rolling Stones and perhaps the Faces as well. Got a lot of Ron Wood in here, I think. Wow, maybe a touch of The Rumour, Graham Parker's band. This is magpie music, I guess, and Brittany's impassioned vocals bellow like a star. The passion in spades, and then the crisp rhythm interlocks with the piano as I await Mick Jagger to join her on a duet. Lyrics, another love story about feeling that way at a sun-drenched, romantic, iconic place with reference to Waikiki Beach in Honolulu. To track 4 then, Rise to the Sun. The drum roll sets this tune going. It's a silky soul 50s style ballad, delicately leading to a smash and grab cacophony before receding back to the recycled intro. The sound is very original before the pungent band energy takes hold. There's a rolling guitar sound that's very original, and then a lead guitar solo that oozes out of the rhythm. It's a very strange sort of song, but interesting set of rhythms. Lyrically, it appears to be about the comparison between the death of the planet by the sun, by the temperature increasing, and the need for a new home with a new challenge on a personal level, being lost with regard to roots and seeking out a friendlier shores or places, possibly suggesting that may have to be a choice that the human race takes in the not too distant future. Track 5 is You Ain't Alone, a more traditional soul tune here, very early 60s, passionate, heart-rending vocals from Brittany, very sort of Janis Joplin-like I found, and the band blues melody meshed perfectly with the impassioned plea in the vocals. The influence is there, but it has a new freshness as the bluesiness exerts itself through the lead guitar, and it searches for the front of the mix, the guitar. The last verse verse just explodes vocally. It's got a real live feel. But it fades a bit too quickly for my liking. Lyrically, it's a simple song about self-esteem and the lack of it, and the importance of being positive, as all of us have in the same sort of fears. Be social, be active, and trust in those you are with. Track 6 is Going To The Party. It tiptoes in with a stripped back guitar chord skipping along with Brittany's vocals, and she adds a touch of spoken word. It's only a minute 45, and when it ends you feel shortchanged. Lyrically, it's about having some fun and not getting too bogged down and reserved, and if you get drunk, so be it, as long as you manage to get back home. So moving on then to track 7, this is Heartbreaker. There's a piano alerts us to this track before the drums crush the earlobes, and then Brittany's screaming vocals lead us to a skippy type rhythm. It's certainly original, that's for sure. Probably the most appropriate word to describe this band. It's powerful, strident and desperate, as befits the title, Heartbreaker, and it stinks of the blues. It's got real attitude. Move over with Janis Joplin. There's a new kid on the block, and I like the soaring keyboards. The lyrics, well, it's about getting your heart broken for the first time. Up next is the title track. It segues in from Heartbreaker. It's much more genteel, but still a scent of the blues. Brittany tiptoes herself through the plodding riff. Brittany's style is unique. She's not polished, but just raw emotion. And it owes a little to the 50s, I feel. And the solo is like nothing on earth. It's very, very cute. Lyrically, poses the question, why can't boys and girls just be good friends without the physical aspect? Why is it so difficult when one of them gets a lover to continue with the friendship? B-Mind's up next. It's got a quicker rock beat and that full band sound. Brittany's up front again, bombarding your senses, and the soul leaks out with high-pitched wails, and the band winds it up a notch. Then there's the break, and its recycled chords remind me a little bit about how Jimi Hendrix recycled his power chords. And then we set off on a frantic joyride-like explosion towards the outro. The lyrics again, well, it's sometimes love's is just so solid and tight because of a special chemistry between the two. I Ain't the Same follows. It's a funky blues. By now you're thinking, is the tornado going to recede? But then there's a real explosion. A tremendous set of songs here. Lyrically, it's about growing apart because one's moved on, one's changed as a person. On Your Way is next. It hints at the slow blues, and then the rhythm guitar kids up into a stomp, and all hell threatens to break loose. Then the keyboards leads into interspersed with frantic rhythm and blues, and it's, well, nothing like you've ever heard before. Some might hear a mess, but I didn't. It's too loose for that, and it's too full of raw power. Lyrically, it's about saying goodbye, I felt, following the death of a friend. And then to the final cut, Heavy Chevy. It's a frantic closer with a Chuck Berry style rock and roll riff with a distinctive rockabilly solo, duetting with Brittany's special brand of Jerry Lewis style vocal. Lyrically, it's a simple song about love and being together. So, to summarise then, well, there are lots of sort of adjectives we could use to describe Alabama Shakes in this first outing. It's certainly a melting pot, a cocktail of blues, garage soul, gospel and rock. And it's also got a modern feel. So, no, we can't get too nostalgic. However, you did sense that it's hard work for them in the studio. This is a live band, and I've watched some concerts of theirs, and they really do deliver. The individual aspects to this are really thrown together by the magic of Brittany. Absolutely precocious type of voice with a tornado presence, and there's also snarling guitar work here and a brutal rhythm section. So I have to confess, I saw them live just after this live in concert, that is, from a video, just after this first album was released, and I really thought that this band were going to tear the airways to shreds, and I was so impressed, particularly with the lead singer, who really is the heart of the band. I suggest you get to listen to it. They've now disbanded, and Brittany's gone solo. I've got her new album, and I will get to review that. But there's also a second to come, Sound and Colours, and that should be with you shortly. But anyway, this concludes the review of Boys and Girls, the first album by Alabama Shakes.